Hello, everyone, and welcome to AdAge's custom webcast sponsored by PatientPoint. The topic of today's webcast is driving brand growth through trust, from point of care to checkout. I'm Natalie Zafat with the AdAge team, and I will be your moderator today. We have a few quick items to go over before we begin. We will be hearing from today's presenters shortly, and then we will open up the floor to your questions. To participate in today's Q&A, all you have to do is type your question into the Ask a Question text area and click the send button. You can submit the questions at any time during today's webcast, and we will address as many questions as time permits after our presenters' prepared remarks. To get us started, please help me welcome Deborah Bass, founder and CEO of Bass Collective. Deborah, take it away.
Thank you, Natalie. So happy to be here this afternoon. I'm joined by my colleagues, Alicia Bierman, the Senior Vice President of Marketing at NatureMade, and Linda Rashaw, the Chief Growth Officer at PatientPoint. By way of background, I currently lead Bass Collective, a strategy and marketing consultancy, and I was formerly the president of Global Marketing Services at J&J Consumer Companies pre-Kenvue. Super excited to dive into this hyper-relevant theme about how we drive brand growth through trust. And we know growth is what is on every marketer's mind, and trust is the hot button of the moment. Through interactive discussion, we will bring to life a long-standing and successful partnership between PatientPoint and NatureMade that has helped NatureMade grow its business in a hyper-competitive category. So, Alicia, why don't you introduce more of your background and current role at NatureMade?
Sure. Thanks, Deborah. Excited to be here to share today about how we're driving growth with PatientPoint through brand trust. And so what I do at NatureMade is I lead the brand and consumer experience team. And a little bit about NatureMade, we're the leading national vitamin and supplement brand. And we're really grounded in our strong brand credentials, which is, we're really grounded in science. We're grounded in our USP certification, and we've been the #1 pharmacist recommended brand for 27 straight years. And we have a long heritage and history of 50 years of earning consumer trust with doctors, with retailers, and with our consumers. So that's really important to us as a brand. About me personally, my background is in CPG. I have a personal passion for health and wellness and really helping consumers live healthier lives. And previously, I worked at General Mills across many different brands. And then previous to NatureMade, also worked at another heritage vitamin and supplement company.
Incredible background. Linda, share more of your background and current role.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks to everyone out in the virtual audience for joining today. Tough act to follow after Deborah and Alicia's credentials. But again, I'm Linda Rashaw. I currently serve as the Chief Commercial Officer at PatientPoint, which means I have the privilege of leading both our client partnership team as well as our healthcare provider team. So I am one of the OGs at PatientPoint, having started my career at Procter & Gamble 30-something years ago and helped found the company about 33 years ago. And so many of you in the audience may be hearing PatientPoint, that feels exclusively to patient and pharma. But actually, our roots and our equity started with consumer health packaged goods and health and wellness brands. And the value proposition was really helping those brands create an environment and create a platform where they can be generating an absolute increased awareness for their brand and incremental value by delivering the message at the right place and the right time with the right third-party influencer. And that value proposition still stands true today. Excited to share more about our partnership with NatureMade.
So you might be wondering why we're talking about the doctor's office in a consumer health or consumer goods webinar. Well, let me share some friendly facts. 79% of consumers trust doctor-recommended brands. 73% of consumers purchase a product within a week of seeing it in their doctor's office, so immediacy of action or near-term sales. And 81% of consumers want to see health and wellness products in their doctor's office. context is king, as we say. And when you're in a health journey and a health moment, you expect to see these types of products. So Alicia, can you provide for us the business context of how this partnership got started? What were your objectives and aspirations, and what did success look like?
Yeah, sure. So if we rewind back to 2020 when this all started, we were deciding what to do in order to take the brand forward. And we started grounded in like the simple fact that healthcare voices, the voices of the doctor, are one of the most trusted voices for consumers. And at the same time, we were doing a segmentation, and that really validated as we looked at our consumer segments that doctors and pharmacists were the #1 influencer of consumer choice for vitamins and supplements. And just for ease of this conversation, we're going to refer to vitamins and supplements a lot, and we'll call it VMS. That's what we call the category, just helping everybody in case you hear that acronym. But, for 27 years, I mentioned Nature Made has been the #1 pharmacist recommended brand. And we're really proud of that. But we wanted to ensure that we were getting that pull through. And where better to do that than having that implied recommendation or the actual recommendation at that point of care visit, right, in that setting. And so that's how we came upon PatientPoint and really started the conversations and the relationship there.
So Linda, why was PatientPoint the ideal partner to achieve Nature Made's ambition?
Great question. So Rhonda Hoffman, who is the CMO of Pharmavite and Nature Made, and I had worked together on previous brands, which is also one of the great things about having a product that delivers positive results. So when she started at Nature Made, she'd reached out and she was just wowed with the amount of clinical data that the brand had. I mean, it's really astounding. You think of, I think the average perception may have been beforehand a vitamin's a vitamin, but was really seeking ways to reinforce the clinical data and the clinical efficacy that has gone into the superiority of the Nature Made brand. And so as we talked, right, there's no better place to deliver that trusted message than in the office of the physician. And that is the place, right? There's a lot of influencers. There's social and there's influencer marketing. But the ultimate influencer of a person's health is their doctor. And so it was just a match made in heaven to align with what they were trying to reinforce on the clinical side.
I love that framing of the doctor as the ultimate influencer. So right for our times. So Alicia, when we look at the VMS category, many describe it as the Wild West, given all of the different dynamics. Can you help demystify this category and help us better understand what you faced into?
Sure. So the vitamin and supplement category is highly complex. There's hundreds, if not thousands of brands if you go on to especially e-commerce retailers. So the choices are very overwhelming for consumers. And once they figure out what they want to take, the choices don't end there. They need to figure out what dosage is right. And then are the claims true? And what form should they be taking that's optimal for them? So the choices really seem endless. And we understood that consumers were doing a lot of research before they even went to the shelf. So they were going online and investigating. They were being influenced by, influencers on social platforms. They're talking to friends, neighbors, trusted loved ones. But we also know that in the doctor's office environment, that's a highly trusted environment. And going back to the stats you shared at the beginning, a high percentage of consumers, if they're told to buy something by their doctor, they go and do it within a number of days. So that there's a lot of credibility in that recommendation. And so we want to make sure that we're breaking through the clutter and getting on that shopping list and getting that recommendation cemented in our consumers' heads before they even make that decision and go to shelf. And so we need to find a partner who could help us deliver this message and reinforce that credibility and efficacy that we wanted to deliver and really cut through the clutter. And so that's why we ended up with PatientPoint, trying to be that voice in the office where that patient doctor decision is being made.
And I was going to ask you to double click on that thought of how important trust is at the point of care. What does it mean and what does it portend for sales and brand growth?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify, but we do track, our trust level with our brand, and we know that just with more and more brands popping up, there is just more confusion. And so we really double down on our credentials and making sure that consumers really understand those credentials, making sure that they know that we're third party tested, that we're always doing the right thing for consumers, and that there's a reason we've been around more than 50 years. And delivering that in the physician's office only adds to that credibility. And so, it was just really important for us to reinforce that credibility and that awareness so that once they leave that doctor's office, Nature Made is top of mind. When they turn down that aisle, that there is that mental awareness. And when they see that sea of Nature Made yellow, that they remember that their doctor recommended this brand. And so that they go to that section within the shelf context.
Makes sense. And love your distinctive asset of the sea of yellow. Very effective. So we've talked conceptually about the partnership. Linda, could you help us bring it to life? Like, what does it actually look like at the point of care in the different environments?
Of course. And what I love about this partnership from the start is Nature Made said, we're going to go all in, right? We know it's very intuitive. It's logical. Alicia has shared all the proof points of why the doctor's office made sense. So they said, we're going to go big and we're going to own the office and take a very holistic approach. So I'd ask the audience to think back to the last time you visited your own personal physician and that experience. Nature Made is taking a very holistic approach across that physician journey, across that patient and health and wellness consumer journey. So when you walk into the doctor's office, you're sitting and waiting for the doctor. We're running messaging in the waiting room. So that's a very anxious time, but it's also one of the only times that consumers are focused on their own personal health. We have a million things on our list to do. For moms out there, you're thinking about your kids and what you need to do for them, but it's the one place when you're waiting to see your doctor that you're thinking about what you can do for your own personal health. So it's this nice connection that Nature Made can deliver to deliver that messaging very effectively when the consumer is going to be most receptive. And there's an implied endorsement that goes along with that. The waiting room program is not a television. It is not connected TV. It is literally a digital platform delivering messaging from the doctor's office, delivering health and wellness educational content, and interspersed with that seamlessly is the Nature Made advertisement. And so that implied endorsement from your personal doctor has been incredibly effective, and we're going to see those results later. Over the past 5 years, together, we have been able to impact over 500 million patients and 120,000 healthcare professionals across the country. So not only are we helping drive value for Nature Made, but we're really helping drive educational and health benefits to numerous stakeholders. So maybe to make this come to life a bit, let's take a look at the digital creative that Nature Made is running in both the waiting room as well as in the exam room. Great, thank you. So we talked a little bit about the waiting room. The second piece of video content that you saw on your screen was what's running in the exam room. And if you think again back to your experience of going to your doctor's office, the moment where you are most engaged with your health is when that doctor is in the exam room. It's the room with the table and the crinkly paper and maybe 20-year-old People magazines, if you're lucky, and a tattered anatomical. And wow, there's this incredible, engaging digital device that is running, again, educational content. Your provider is using the anatomicals to explain the condition. And along with that, again, nature-made vitamin ads. I actually had that personal experience. And for those of you in the audience, I'll ask you to be thinking of a product that one of your physicians or healthcare providers recommended to you. I had gotten my results of my DEXA scan, was in the exam room with my OB-GYN. He said, you really need to start taking a calcium supplement. And boom, there's the Nature-Made ad. And of course, I would do that for Alicia no matter what. But that was implanted on me to go out and purchase the Nature-Made vitamin. So if we start to then transition to the next slide about the doctor impact, we're going to talk about how we impact the physicians and the back office. If you could advance to slide 6, Deborah, thank you. So the doctor's office, right? It's very important that we have a pull through so that when a patient or a healthcare consumer is asking their physician or healthcare provider, nurses, NPs, PAs are also very active influencers in this whole holistic journey for the healthcare consumer, that they feel comfortable and they're educated. And Nature-Made has just done a brilliant job at really driving home that clinical data to the physicians and healthcare providers as to why they can feel confident about recommending Nature-Made to their patients.
That's exactly right, Linda. And just to build on that a bit, what we've seen in our years of experience is that doctors, nurses, they're not as comfortable as you would imagine recommending vitamins and supplements. There's not coursework. They don't get a lot of training in medical school on this. And so it's actually a confidence gap for them. And what we do doesn't end with PatientPoint. So we have educational material in the back rooms for doctors to educate them and try to build that confidence, but it doesn't end there. We have educational material on every type of supplement on our website specifically for healthcare practitioners. But we also go to trade shows and try to educate and sample. And we also offer continuing education modules that are complementary on trending vitamin and supplement topics that might be of interest to their patients to really help educate doctors so that they can close that confidence gap and be more confident recommenders for their patients.
Yeah, you all have really killed it. I have to tell you, right? I mean, you're not just looking at this as a one-stop in time or a blip or a promotion. You've taken this holistic approach, which is why I think you've seen such great success. And we know that, right? Not just PatientPoint data, not just Nature-Made data, the Kantar research, confirms that. The campaigns are 7 times more impactful when they reach a receptive audience. So you could have the most brilliant creative and the most brilliant strategy, but it's not just about what you say, it's about where you say it. And for any single brand out there that has a health and wellness spin, the doctor's office is that place to deliver to the patient when they are most receptive and with that implied endorsement. So with talking all about the back office, let's take a look at the video and see how Nature-Made is approaching the healthcare providers. Whoops, I realized I was speaking while I was on mute. Before we transition, you might have recognized that video was soundless. That's intentional. We are running this messaging in the back office so that physicians and staff are looking up in a glance and go format in between seeing their patients all day long. So it is installed in places where they can actually see that and keep the brand top of mind. It's a very effective tool also for those brands who just can't afford to have a full-time sales force, to have almost that surrogate rep in the back office to deliver your message to the doctors.
So we know what gets measured is what matters. And we want to talk about the great results we've seen not only in leading indicator metrics like what's on screen, but also sales growth. So Alicia, can you talk about what's behind some of these numbers and the impact that PatientPoint has had in growing the NatureMade business and brand equity?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun to see these kind of numbers because these are quite big and not numbers you see every day. So I want to take a little bit of time to just brag about this partnership and the great work with the PatientPoint team, because since 2020, we've continued to expand and strengthen this partnership. And the PatientPoint team, Linda's team, has been excellent at helping us iterate really to great here. We've changed and we continue to test and iterate on creative messaging and targeting strategies, expanding offices, finding ways to connect more specifically in the front office versus the back office. And they've really been expert partners at helping us do this. For us at NatureMade, continuing to grow this brand trust and set ourselves apart from the competition is incredibly important. And one of the ways that we're doing this is through the exclusivity we have in the vitamin and supplement category with PatientPoint. So it's a place where we can be the singular voice of vitamins and supplements within that trusted care environment. So that's really important to us. And then holistically, the practitioner channel is very important. It's one of our many channels as we try to grow, mental availability and grow that awareness for our consumers. And it's just an important reminder. We talked about when you think of supplements, you want them to think about that sea of yellow and link it with credibility and trust so that it's a no-brainer decision.
Linda, do you want to add a little bit more texture here?
Sure. I mean, when we were preparing for this and reviewing the results, I think both Alicia and I were like, wow, this really was a great partnership. But I can't ignore the importance of that trust factor and the fact that by driving trust, that's what's driving the purchase. And you think about today's environment, Meta doesn't do fact checking anymore. There's so many environments where you have to be fearful of, is your message and is your brand message being delivered in an environment where it does feel safe and trustable? And I just have to reinforce that as we go back to the placement in the doctor's office, that there is no greater place to deliver that trust. So not only are they delivering that message in this trusted environment, dialing down on what Alicia was speaking to, in the point of care environment, it is category exclusive. So there is no other vitamin brand that is going to be running in those 20,000 doctors' offices. So not only are you getting the implied endorsement for the vitamin category, you're getting the implied endorsement that the doctor likes and recommends your brand better than any other brand on the market. So it's just truly a way to stand out from all the noise in a very cluttered advertising environment today.
I love the ability to create the sacred sanctuary for brand growth. That's brilliant. So let's talk about growth. And we know that's the ultimate metric. So Alicia, what did this actually do for your business in terms of sales growth?
Yeah, so really exciting. NatureMade has had incredible growth since 2020. As proactive wellness has been at the forefront of culture and continues to do so, there's a huge self-care movement and people have really moved into this proactive wellness and taking control of their own health. We've seen, 40% sales growth since 2020 and 25% share growth, which is incredible for what had traditionally been a pretty small growth category. We continue to prioritize both mental and physical availability across all touch points. But I would say, being in the practitioner channel, working with PatientPoint is one of the key pillars of our growth because it's where we can continue to, if you go back to the previous slide, build trust, which really builds that purchase intent. And so it all kind of works together to drive brand growth.
Yeah, congratulations to you and Linda and team. These are incredible results and built through strong and trusted partnership. So the next question is, the task of growing a brand is never finished work. So how do we continue to grow the brand and go from strength to strength and find new ways to leverage PatientPoint's Consumer Health Network? Maybe Alicia, tell us a little bit about sort of what you did next as you continue to build the brand and sales.
So about a year and a half ago, we launched a new platform of zero sugar gummies. And while this addressed a broad consumer need in the marketplace of, gummies have sugar and that's a consumer barrier. So it had a broad need in the marketplace. But we also saw that there was a specific population who might benefit specifically from zero sugar gummies. And this was kind of that type 2 diabetes, low sugar seeking consumer. And so we worked with PatientPoint to try to really target these sugar conscious consumers through their proprietary data network, and they helped us build custom creative. And we ran a test, and this was exciting because this was the first time that we actually went product line specific, trying to understand if we could drive incrementally on a specific product line. And what we saw is we drove a 10% higher awareness and purchase intent with the targeted audience that would benefit most from this product. So we continue to really learn and drive into new territories with PatientPoint. And I think it's really interesting to understand, how as there are different trends and different innovations that come, we could continually try to grow the business in different and unique ways through targeting and custom creative.
And Linda, tell us more about PatientPoint's targeting capabilities.
Sure. So as I mentioned at the start of our conversation today, a lot of our business is rooted with pharmaceutical companies, and that presents tremendous opportunity for other health and wellness brands. For the example that Alicia was just speaking to, we know which physicians are heavy writers of type 2 diabetes products. So we are able to uniquely identify those specific physicians' offices where you're going to have the greatest impact, not just at the physician level, but at the patient level. Just an interesting tidbit, if someone is curious about the need to educate health and wellness to type 2 diabetics, from one of our retail partners, I thought this was astounding. There's a prize for anybody in the audience who wants to put the answer to this in the chat. I'll send you a PatientPoint gift card for something. But the 2 products that are most likely purchased at retail by people picking up a GLP-1 at the pharmacy. This was astounding to me. Soda and candy. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So again, the need for education that if you have type 2 diabetes, you need to be doing other things to protect your health. And here are other solutions that can help those diabetes patients. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to hone in, use that data, and find those specific healthcare consumers that you're looking for.
Really, really powerful. Love the targeting capability as well. So now let's share the 3 big takeaways for brand marketers. So the first one is to build brand leadership and trust where health decisions are made. So marketers often hear content is king. We believe that context is king. But if you could really show up and embed your brand within the healthcare journey where health decisions are made, it's really powerful to drive preference and sales. And we've seen NatureMade achieve this and differentiate themselves as the #1 pharmacist recommended brand and build growth through trust, science, and accessibility. So context is king. The second takeaway is develop creative content tailor-made for the channel to maximize ROI. So don't try to force fit creative or content from other channels into point of care. Customize it to really have it be fit for purpose so it resonates most and moves your consumers. And then last, partnership with a growth mindset, because it is about continuous improvement. How do we learn and optimize and expand? And I'm going to add a 4th, which is the power of strategic partnership. And I think Linda and Alicia and their teams have been exemplary in having a long-term commitment to building this partnership to grow the NatureMade brand and always looking around the corner to what's next to continue to drive growth. So kudos to both of you there. So we're now going to show you how to reach PatientPoint before we move to Q&A. So PatientPoint would love to hear from you. and help many consumer brands grow. So reach out to Linda and her colleagues at any of these different channels or content points. This is a good time to get your cameras out and take a screenshot. So now I'm going to move to Q&A, and we've seen a couple of questions come in, and Natalie is going to come back and help us field additional questions as they roll in from the audience. So the first question is to Alicia. Alicia, what do you see as the greatest advantage of partnering with PatientPoint and their consumer health network?
Ooh, great question. I think three things come to mind for me. First, it is the #1 place of influence for our core consumer. We've talked a lot about that today, but it's the most valuable place for our brand to deliver a branded message, and that it comes with an implied endorsement from their physician. And Linda had talked about that. It's not just a doctor, it's your doctor. And it's that personalized connection and that implied endorsement. The second is that it's one of the only places in media where we are the only branded vitamin and supplement voice, and we are doing that through the category exclusivity that we have. So we get to, own that conversation and be the one helping to drive that conversation in context. And then the third, I would say, is the spirit of continuous improvement that we have with the PatientPoint team. They've been fabulous to partner with. And whenever we see something and say, hey, we'd love to try that, or do we think we could do better? We see a metric and we're like, I think we can improve it if we change this or that, or the targeting, or, even change the creative. They've always been game, and they're always kind of helping us think about how we can do things better and differently. So they've just been tremendous to work with. And I think we've seen shared success through that mindset.
We're not bashful at telling you when we think we should do something different, are we?
It's true, but neither are we, and it works.
Right.
The power of partnership, right? It's all about truth telling.
Absolutely.
So, Linda, the next question is for you, which is, how can PatientPoint's Consumer Health Network uniquely expand a brand's omnichannel marketing plan? What role would PatientPoint play in that marketing mix?
Omnichannel is such a buzzword now. So it's, multiple channel marketing tactics. And I go back to what we've been stressing through the entire presentation, which is because of our ability to uniquely reach the patient and the healthcare consumer. It's so easy for me to say patient, but health and wellness brands obviously oftentimes don't think of it as a patient, but healthcare consumers, regular consumers, are patients. We are all patients when we go to the doctor. And I go back to being able to deliver that message when the patient and the consumer is most receptive, in the most trusted environment, and with all the data that supports that those consumers are more likely to purchase after they leave their doctor's office. I mean, NatureMade has shared, thank you for sharing, by the way, Alicia, being able to see the results of that impact. So to me, there are so many products out there that could benefit from the implied or direct endorsement in the physician's office. I mean, from all the health and wellness food brands, food products that have this health spin. I mean, the low sodium, the low cholesterol. We can look at what physicians are actually heavily writing the latest cholesterol products. So you're reaching patients who are going to be most receptive to that message. So don't be afraid by the name PatientPoint. We're actually very consumer driven. And I'll just remind folks to submit any questions if you have in the chat as well.
Thank you, Linda. Natalie, can you help us pull up some additional questions from the audience?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you all so much, Deborah, Linda, Alicia, for those insights. And I love the rebrand of the doctor as the ultimate influencer. My dentist is going to love that. We are ready now to open up the floor to your questions. As a reminder, to participate in today's Q&A, just type your question into the Ask a Question text area and click the send button. We have a few rolling in here. This one's really interesting to me, and it says, which health category do you think has the most opportunity for growth through point of care marketing? I wonder if they're referring to, preventative care, chronic disease management, mental health. Is there a specific category you think has the most potential here?
I'll take that one, and Deborah and Alicia can opine if they'd like. If you have a health condition, whatever that health condition is what matters most to you. So I don't think the platform of point of care and in PatientPoint necessarily works better for some than others, right? It really depends on that particular consumer and what that consumer's pain point is. If you don't have a problem, you don't need the solution. We have lots of solutions there. So it's really honing in on what is that ideal patient. And we even think about categories like lotion. Well, diabetics and oncology patients have a lot of skin conditions. There's even in oncology lemon heads. For those that don't know, right, that when you're going through chemotherapy, you get an awful metallic taste in your mouth. So if you're a product that can help ease that, if you can help ease and help the skin recover from some of the conditions. So there's so many insights, and we're happy to share those. As Alicia said, we're your partner in this. This is all we do every day, is think about how to drive better discussions between doctors and patients. So we're happy to ideate. It's one of the most fun parts of my job.
And I'd love to throw in an example from my old world of J&J and Listerine, right? So one insight that was unearthed is that for type 2 diabetics, they have higher incidence of periodontal disease and gum issues. But they don't know that because doctors don't typically talk about that. They talk about foot neuropathy or diabetic nerve pain. So how could a brand like Listerine potentially lean into this environment to better educate their patients on all of the things they should be mindful of as they manage their condition, right? I think there's so many insights like that to be mined about the consumer and how this platform could help uniquely serve them.
Well said. A lot of questions rolling in here, and I'd love to start with this one from Stephanie. She says, most people only go into a doctor's office a few times a year. How big of an impact can this platform actually have on a brand, and how are you measuring that impact?
I can take that. I think if we think about the impact of the doctor recommendation and that implied endorsement in the office, it's actually quite a big impact. If you went back to the very beginning, Deborah shared a stat about 73% of consumers who have that brand interaction in the office convert within a week. That's a pretty high conversion rate. Many of us know, that work on direct-to-consumer brands, how many times it takes to convert a consumer, how many ads you have to serve. It's a pretty low return game. And so that's a pretty high return. The other thing is we do put this channel into our marketing mix model. So we're always evaluating this against the other channels and what are the trade-offs and is it returning? And so as you can see, since 2020, it's been part of our mix and continues to be. So we have been able to quantify and measure that value.
We have a question here that came in from Julia, and she's asking about whether or not there are any similar networks to PatientPoint. So she says, how does PatientPoint's Consumer Health Network differ from other channels, and is there any other similar network?
I'll take that one. As co-chair of the Point of Care Marketing Association, I will have to tell you yes, and I am first and foremost a supporter of the channel. This channel is very appropriate and relevant for any health and wellness brands. PatientPoint has superiority largely because of scale. There is no one that gets you closer to reaching the number of consumers and healthcare providers. I mean, we have 5 times the number of locations that Starbucks or McDonald's do. And if you put that in perspective of the amount of impact of just even a digital out-of-home campaign, where else are you going to guarantee the viewership? I also think because we started from Procter & Gamble, if anybody out there is from P&G, God love you, right? If it's not measurable, it doesn't make sense to do. And so measurement and data is a critical piece of how we not just measure the campaign, but build the campaigns from the start. And I think that's what's really driven some of the success with Nature Made. It's not just about measuring success, it's about using data to set the brand up for success.
We have a question that came in specifically for Alicia. I'm going to put you on the spot. It says, do you believe that leveraging PatientPoint's in-office solutions help give the patient/consumer one final way to help separate Nature Made from others in the VMS hyper-competitive market?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I don't know what is the one final way. I think they all build on each other, but that's why the credentials and being in the office are so important, because we know that the majority of consumer purchase decisions are actually made based on emotion, and people kind of have these, they know what they want to do, but then they create this rationale, which we call the intellectual alibi, for why they do what they do. And so when you ask a consumer, like, why do you buy this brand? They'll say, oh, because it's quality and third-party tested. And those are all true and things we're really proud of. But yeah, we need to have those intellectual alibi reasons. And the more that they have, it kind of builds that like war chest of rationale. And I think it does help, drive that decision over the edge.
Lots of questions streaming in, and I'm trying to look through all of them or answer as many as we can. If you're just joining, welcome. As a reminder, to participate in today's Q&A, all you have to do is type your question into an Ask a Question text area and click the send button. Here's a question that asks about, how does the point of care channel uniquely support brand growth? Anybody want to tackle that?
I mean, we've just spent so much time speaking to that. So it's unique in many fashions, right? Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse about the receptive audience and the trusted environment, but I also think you can't underestimate that category exclusivity. The dynamic in health and wellness and over-the-counter products has dramatically changed. I know Alicia has to live with that every day. So when I was at Procter & Gamble many moons ago, everything was about the store shelf. And I'm not saying that store shelf isn't important. And Alicia, gosh, that yellow branding when I walk into CVS is crazy. But many of those decisions are being made before they even get to the store shelf. We're ordering online, we're doing delivery services, we're doing pickup, we're doing drive-through. And so how do you cement that consumer's decision before they even get to the store shelf? And if the doctor recommends it, I go back to the audience saying, think about a product that your doctor has told you to use and buy. I bet you're still buying it. It's a proven fact. So it is very unique to any other channel.
And just to put a frame that a lot of marketers are using, and I know Nature Made included, when you look at Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow and how you build physical availability and mental availability, Alicia talked about mental availability before, using the point of care channel to build awareness in a moment that matters, where consumers are highly receptive to a health message, really helps drive action and growth. Super powerful and measurable.
Well, I feel like I could probably keep asking you questions all day. Actually, we have one more. So let me ask this one, perhaps to close us out here. It says this channel seems more suited for larger manufacturers. How can smaller brands work in this space?
I think it's and sometimes almost just the opposite. I mean, there's two ways of thinking at it, right? If you are a large brand and you have a huge media spend, this is an incredible pull through. It's going to make your message resonate from a moment to the moment that matters most to drive action. And that's what Nature Made has done so well, right? Is not looking at this as a singular tactic. But in many other cases, it's an incredible vehicle to outsmart versus outspend your competition. There's no other channel, no other media channel where you're going to get category exclusivity, educational content, and in essence, guaranteed viewership. I mean, if I'm on Amazon and I'm searching for a sweater or something and I get queued up the ad, I don't want to see that ad, right? That's not what I'm looking for when things about the sweater. Versus if I'm in the doctor's office, I'm thinking about my health. It is perfectly logical, acceptable, and expected to see a message about a healthcare brand. So the size is not the limit. The impact can be just as great.
That reminds me of something that was said earlier about context being key. And I think that was a really, really salient point about where you are and compared to where you're seeing messaging. I think we could talk all day, and I think we have reached the end of our time. Thank you so much, Deborah, Linda, Alicia, for your insights during today's conversation. And thank you to everyone who's watching for attending Ad Age's custom webcast sponsored by PatientPoint. A quick reminder before we depart, you can view and listen to this presentation on demand using the same link you used to attend today. You will receive an email as soon as the archive is ready. On behalf of our guests with PatientPoint, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next time.